So real quick, if you're avoiding any spoilers for the Hunger Games film or books, you might want to watch something else, just to be safe, in case any details at all will ruin your enjoyment of the series. So the Hunger Games movie came out on Friday. I didn't go at midnight because I'm a little old lady at heart, so I got up Friday morning and saw it at noon when the theater opened. Don't judge me. For me, it's always interesting seeing who goes to see these big franchise movies when they come out. I used to run into kids from my high school whenever I would go to see the Harry Potter movies at midnight. And then I'm wondering where all these people are when I'm promoting like crazy, posting flyers all over the hallways and trying to get them to come to Wizard Rock shows. This time around, my previous experience of the Hunger Games fandom, pretty much internet nerds who rushed online as soon as the books came out to talk about them after they finished reading. And something tells me that the people in this particular audience were not those same people. That probably could have had something to do with the crazy and at times kind of creepy marketing campaign that the film had. And even though I felt too uncomfortable with their approach to register myself for a district identification card, because let's face it, this isn't a world that I would even want to pretend to live in. A lot of people were really excited to be immersed in something new and exciting. So that probably pulled in a lot of people who hadn't read the books yet. The first book is being taught at schools now as well, which I think is super awesome. On our way out of the theater, I had a chat with a group of middle school students and their moms who were kind of trying to flag people down in the hallway asking for help because their kids had to write a paper on the differences between the film and the book. And I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty fun for me. Nonetheless, the audience was really quiet and respectful, which I was very happy about. There wasn't any audible squeeing every time Peeta and Gale came on screen. Thank goodness nobody clapped or cheered whenever one of the career tributes was killed. But I was really upset to hear that that was happening in other theaters. Because seriously, did you miss the entire point of the series? Careers aren't the enemy, it's the society that raised them to kill for their personal entertainment. Anyway, back to Peeta and Gale. One of the major things that has always bothered me is the tendency of people to sign themselves up for Team Peeta or Team Gale as soon as they've realized that there's a love triangle in this series. I don't normally have anything against a love story, but The Hunger Games is the farthest thing from a love story as far as I'm concerned. So I don't really understand why so many people have focused on that. Especially when the female in the love triangle doesn't need and really couldn't care less about who she ends up with. Katniss saw firsthand what happened to her mother when her father died. She has no interest in having a family of her own because she's terrified to bring a child into a world where he or she could be brutally murdered while all of Panem watches on television. And if not, they would probably starve if they don't fall into the trap of accepting the teeny tiny little government-issued rations. And on top of that, any character could really die at any minute in this series. It is entirely possible. They're not safe. They're in so much danger. There are seriously more important things for all of these characters to be worried about, and Katniss especially has so much on her shoulders right now that I just really can't understand why people are shipping her with anyone at all. Katniss herself says it so perfectly in Mockingjay that as soon as I got to this part in the book, I knew that I had to flag it down and share it with you guys at some point. My cheeks begin to burn. The very notion that I'm devoting any thought to who I want presented as my lover, given our current circumstances, is demeaning. Do I think that Katniss may have been happier if she hadn't been so guarded, and let someone into her heart in a time when everything else in her world is so horrible and full of hate? Maybe. But that's not who she is. As far as the film itself goes, I thought it was really true to the book. And watching the movie felt like reading the book did for me. I went through the same mess of emotions, and I probably was more of a mess when I read the book just because I didn't know what was going to happen yet, but I still felt that to a certain extent watching the film. Visually, the world that they created for this series was very close to what I had originally pictured when I read the book myself. Though the shaky and sometimes blurry camera work, while chaotic and probably fitting, maybe a little dizzy, so that wasn't really my favorite part. Absolutely loved Jennifer Lawrence's performance of Katniss, and the rest of the cast really impressed me as well, even the ones that I wasn't too sure about at first. Even the smaller characters were seriously on their game. Clove especially just freaked me out. The actors were an enormous part of making it all believable, so that's what made it so scary, I think. When I heard that they were making these books into movies, part of me was worried. I think it would have been incredibly easy for all of the fighting to be kind of romanticized, especially when the marketing and promotion started going in that direction. I was really just kind of nervous. I didn't want the film to make us feel like the careers do, like these tributes are honorable, like taking part in this awful game was somehow noble. But in the end, I think they did a good job of making you feel uncomfortable with what's happening. They even had this cheesy little propaganda film that they played during the reaping, which I thought was just so tongue-in-cheek and hilarious because it was ridiculous. there was like a male tribute flexing and holding up a spear and just like holding his head up high like this was just the best thing that ever could have happened to him. So, if you've gotten this far and you haven't read the books yet, I would strongly, strongly urge you to read them. And go see the film if you want. The series takes an incredibly thought-provoking look at what our world could eventually become, and I think it's an important story that really needed to be told. I just hope that as the movies take this story to a broader audience, people will continue to think critically about what they're seeing and how it relates to us. And I'm excited to see where this franchise goes over the next couple years. And just for fun, let me know in the comments whether you're Team Foxface or Team Clove, because Katniss ends up lying on the ground in the arena with each of them at some point during the film. And if we're going to ship an unshippable character, we might as well do it sarcastically. Bye!